Hello and welcome to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Gary and Jim with you. And before we get started, Jim, I just got to ask, are you in fact a mutant and/or wizard who can control the weather? Because 2 times in a row that you and I have gotten together, we've said, screw it, I don't care, there's a game on, let's just leave our show when we normally do it and do it. And 2 times in a row, the heavens have opened up and brought our audience to us to wait out the rain.
Dude, this is perfect because, like I told you, I just got back from my son's baseball game. We got the game in. The game is delayed. I'm so happy because I'm going to get to watch the game tonight. We're going to have people in the chat, I'm sure. We're just going to get to talk some baseball and not have to keep an eyeball on another screen while we do it, too. So that's awesome.
For sure. And I mean, a lot of the time, the first time through the order anyway, there's no reason to watch. So, I mean,
no, we don't really miss anything.
Right. So, Queen thinks she might actually be a wizard. So, we'll
that's better than mutant. Thank you, Queen.
And Greg, Locked On's been, hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it. And for once, I don't think we're going to overlap all that much. I mean, I've said that I'd like to trade Brian Hayes on that show, but I haven't discussed it. Not in the way we're going to tonight, man. I kind of just want to have it out about Brian Hayes, all of it. We've been waiting, and I feel like we've waited. I want to start with something a little bit more lighthearted first, though. How about Rob Manfred saying that he's going to propose the ABS system for next year, which, for those of you that don't know, is basically you get 2 challenges and you can use them as long as you're a catcher, pitcher, or hitter, and you lose them when you're wrong. What do you think of it, man? Are you excited that it's coming to the game, or is the purist in you kind of a little bit sick in the belly?
It will always be a little bit of a bittersweet thing for me with stuff like this, right? Because I think we grew up in a time in baseball where whether it was true or not, it seemed like the umps did a better job, and we were definitely okay. I think both of us, without even having to talk about it, is like replay in certain parts of the game, I think was critical, right? Like foul balls, home runs, like got to get that stuff right. When all this started popping up several years ago, I was really hesitant because I was like, man, I don't know how it's going to affect the game. I like the umpires being a part of it. But I will say it's probably just gotten to the point where umps are missing too many calls, too many critical calls. And I think this is as good of a compromise as you can get. Like, without getting carried away with it, I can live with this. I think it's time.
I'll kind of go this route. I think technology has evolved to the point where to not be able to get plays right is kind of not optional anymore. When things are apparent to you watching on TV because they put a box over the strike zone and you can see it, and we know the technology exists and we've seen it, it's really hard to not look dumb when you have bad calls in bad times that make you look bad. Because the only reason you look bad is because you chose not to use the technology that's there. The same thing in soccer. They had a big controversy in the World Cup a few years ago because they couldn't tell whether a ball went across the line or not. But they have the technology to put those sensors in the balls so they can tell that it's gone across the line. And everyone's like, why the hell didn't you put it in then? And tennis, same thing. The lines, they have the ability to do all that stuff. And once technology gets to a certain point, are you Amish? Implement it. You know what I mean? I think like that's kind of where it is. If it's going to be on TV right in your face that they're wrong 5-6 times a night visually, not close, but wrong, I don't know how you can continue that if you know how to fix it.
Yeah, I think Chris just made a comment about like first down markers in the NFL. Why still the chain gang? I think that's the same thing there, which is like eventually it does start to seem a little ridiculous that you've got better things to
Right.
know, police the game or you know um, officiate these games and you're not using it. And I just think that guys with their stuff today, it's made it harder and harder on umpires, and the framing has really advanced to the point where it does fool the ups. And in critical spots in games, man, we all know the stats about whether it's a ball or a strike in a count. Things fluctuate wildly. What the success rate for that at bat is going to be.
It's going to be funny to see how it's implemented too, because, for instance, it can't be a call from the bench, right? You're not going to be able to hold up the game and go, "Hey, roll back the tape there, Johnny, and tell me whether I should challenge that or not." It's got to be somebody right directly in line in that situation. But I guarantee the bench is going to put some rules on it, Jim. Like, they're not going to let like any Tom, Dick, or Harry up there pretending that they can buy themselves a strike or a ball, right? I
Yeah,
think there's going to be some rules to it.
and when do you want to use it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like, yeah, you don't need Tommy Pham up there, in the first inning challenging balls and strikes. To use to use an example close to home right now. I, I think it's time. I'm glad that we are at the point where we do have the technology. Do I want to see? I think what has been interesting, Gary, with this is how often they're wrong, though, the players or the batter or the pitcher. We think they know the strike zone really great, and they do. But we see them not be right a lot. Catchers, hitters, pitchers. I don't know what the stats were for spring training, but it wouldn't have surprised me if it was like 50-50 whether you got the call right or not if you challenged it. I don't know what they were.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it is something like that. I think a lot of people, at least people at home, they see that box. I don't think they're thinking about the strike zone as a 3D entity. It is. I mean, like, you can start crossing the plate above the strike zone and end in the strike zone by the time you get to the back of the 3D box. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And some of those things your eyes have not been trained to see as strikes, this ABS is going to see as a strike. You wrap a slider around the outside and you're pretty sure you hooked that back end of the plate, with the finish of that pitch. Most umpires are going to miss that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they're going to
I
call it
think,
as a close pitch, and the hitter's going to be pissed, but that 3D is going to get people, I think, for a minute.
yeah. And what that means is there'll be an art form to pitching for it too, right? Like these lefties that just depend on really using every part of the strike zone. And what I mean by that is the width of it,
Yeah.
the width of the plate or the depth of it. You could see some guys that really try to live on that. So and we get to see the adjustments in real time.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting.
I would agree. Eric says one thing he's noticed is that some hitters really know the strike zone well. Yeah. And I think there's probably less than think they do, if you know what I mean. I think it's
Yeah.
different for everybody. This isn't robo umps, though. We should be really, really sure to be distinctive about that. This isn't robo umps, so this doesn't take away all the framing and whatnot that happens throughout a game. There's no way you're going to use this challenge system to fix all bad ball and strike calls. That's not what this is going to be. It's going to be for egregious. It's going to be for huge moment, and I think that's going to require some patience to hold on to it, to still have it for said big moment. That's the kind of stuff it's going to fix. It maybe if they were wise enough to have held on to it, and the hotheads that tend to hit for the Pirates tell me probably not. But if they still had one left by the time Davis got that shitty call the other night, that would have been a perfect time to use this sort of thing. You know what I mean? But I don't want them to ever go full robo ump. I think that will change way too much about this game and turn something that's not supposed to be clinical way too clinical.
Yeah, I agree. I know we got to go to break here, but I totally agree with that. Like, that's why I'm okay with this. Is it's a step in the right direction. We can take care of hopefully the critical moments in a game where it really, really matters without fundamentally changing what we're watching on that TV every night.
Right. All right, brother. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Cabrian Hayes. We're going to dive right into it. We're going to do Call Your Shot right away, too, because it leads into it. That's where we're going to pick up.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Cabrian Hayes is what we're going to talk about, Jim, and I figured we should probably lay a little baseline down for some stats and his contract status and things like that, so we don't have to deal with it too much during the conversation, okay? The contract is simple. Before we get started, this is still a good and reasonable contract for the player Cabrian Hayes is. He's making $7 million this year, $7 million next year, $7 million in 2027. Then it switches to $8 million for the 2 remaining years, and the club option year you can go ahead and just forget about. Okay, even though it's very affordable at $8 million or $12 million if you wanted to do it at the time, and say he takes off and does well. So I just want to kind of make sure people really understand what's left and owed to him, because I know right away the first inclination is going to be who's going to take him, who's going to take all of that money. It ain't that much money. Okay, we'll talk through this, but it ain't that much money.
There's Pirates money, and then there's baseball money elsewhere, and those are two distinctive different things.
Right. And then, the other thing is, this is a guy that has never had more than 505 at bats in a season. I mean, when we talk about chronically injured, that's chronically injured. You never get anywhere near like those starter level figures that you normally would. His best posted average for anything resembling a complete season was 2023, where he hit 271. I think this is his most promising season. 15 home runs, 31 doubles, 28 walks versus 104 strikeouts. 2023 is the pinnacle of what we've seen as Cabrian Hayes, and his OPS even then was only 762. Okay, so that's probably the best you can hope for if you hope and pray and close your eyes and wish that everything would go away and be okay again. You want 2023 Cabrian Hayes. In fact, if we had 2023 Cabrian Hayes right now, Jim, I probably don't put up this poll question. We probably don't have this discussion.
No, he'd be a huge bargain. He'd be a huge bargain at that point. The only reason we're having this discussion, Gary, is because he literally cannot do much at the plate. I mean, he's been reduced to essentially a singles hitter.
Right.
And I know everybody's like, well, the underlying metrics. At this point, I don't care about those anymore. We're 2,207 plate appearances into Cabrian Hayes. I don't want to bury the guy because some of this is injury related, and that's unfortunate. And he's a great defensive third baseman, but I would tell people that are still hanging on for hope that you're ever going to see Cabrian Hayes reach whatever potential you thought he had as an offensive player. I just think those days are past us. He's 28. But I think he's an old 28, quite honestly.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, let's jump into Call Your Shot, because it would be unfair for us to continue this conversation before we start getting that input. Plus, I've got a lot of the replies we got to the poll that I want to read through as well.
Sure.
Including our winner of Call Your Shot is one of those replies. So that's how we're going to get started.
All right.
Gary, Jim, what's happening, guys? Happy Thursday. I'm back for another week of Call Your Shot. Don't worry, Jim. I pulled over this time, but I am in the car again. Sorry, guys, but just had to get this question in. This week we did things a little differently. Gary had a really good poll question, a lot of engagement here, so we decided to roll with that this week. And I'm going to go ahead and read the poll question here. We're going to give a gift card or Call Your Shot tee to one of the commenters, and then we'll get to some business after that. So let's get started here on the poll question. I'll throw it up on the screen so you have to listen to me reading it. Anyways, but Gary's poll is: would the Pirates in any way feel trading Hayes and starting Triolo? Neither are good enough. One is cheap, and the other is far cheaper. 163 votes. 61% said yes. 39% no. You guys should definitely talk about that. But the winner for this week's Call Your Shot is going to be Robert Bishop at the Bread Guy 44. Tremendous poll question. I could argue, but I won't. That because of Triolo's size. Probably can't rule out that he could have more upside if something gets unlocked. Realistically, I'd like to see York and Peggy each get 70 starts a season before it's tomorrow time. All right, Robert. Nice stuff, buddy. Good question. Congrats on winning that. I didn't realize how big Triolo was either. He doesn't look that big of a guy, but hey, size should matter in this game. And thanks for commenting, everyone. That was awesome. We'll probably do this again here soon. Couple things before I go. Just dropped a ton of new swag on shopyens.com. A lot of baseball themed stuff. Check it out. Let me know which one you like the most. And I hope to see you guys rocking that at PNC Park here sometime soon. And happy Aaron Rodgers Day. What a day for Pittsburgh sports. Let's get a dub here, and let's get Donnie Ball era back over 500. What do you say?
Changing the game, spitting that flame. His name is all. I got that Pittsburgh sound, and I'ma always hold Pittsburgh down.
It's always good stuff from Taylor, man. I really enjoyed this format, doing the poll question into the comment. I think was a neat way to do this. So kudos to Taylor, because it was a great idea. And new shirts up on the website are really cool looking. So I'm probably going to go and order one myself. But
that picture of Paul Skeens with the sunglasses on is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's the first time I saw that shirt. So that's awesome.
It looks pretty cool. That's what I was thinking about getting myself, man. But all right. So the poll question, I should probably explain, because a lot of people wanted to take it further, and we will when we discuss it here, Jim. But for this discussion, I intentionally made it difficult. Okay. If we're saying that Hayes is just a glove, that's what you and I are contending, right?
Yep.
Well, Jared Triolo is too. And he's not much worse, if at all. He's a lot cheaper. More than anything, though, I just wanted to know, did you think that you would really feel anything if they traded Hayes and just replaced him with Triolo for the rest of the year? I mean, would the team feel anything, Jim? I'm surprised at the results of the poll. 61% saying they would feel something. 39% saying no. See, to me, I feel like if Brian Hayes is as bad as we're contending he is, I'm not sure how you can say that you think that's that much of a drop-off. What's the difference? Could Brian Hayes hitting with running and scoring position a little bit? I mean, like that's really all he's done this year at any kind of good clip.
Yeah, I like how you phrased it, because I think there's another way to phrase it where it's 90-10 as
Right.
far as what people want to do. And it's never that simple.
If
right?
it was just, do you want to trade Hayes? I think yeah, it's 90% yes.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, you'd have a few, truthers still hanging on, but overwhelmingly, it would be yes. I think really, let me start by saying this. Do I think there's a drop off between Hayes and Triolo? Yeah, I do. But it really comes down to, is it enough where it would concern me based on the salary that's attributed to Hayes? I'd be willing to make that deal just to get the salary off the books.
I
You
guess
know,
for me, it's less about the salary, Jim, and more about the mind block that the Pirates have themselves in. Okay, like when I start looking at places where they can add the one component we really feel they're most missing, it's power, right? So when I walk around the diamond, I'm thinking, well, I'm not getting rid of Horwitz. Catcher in some way, shape, or form is filled. At least they're going to try with Endy and Henry and Bart in some configuration, right?
right? No, without a doubt.
Center field, O'Neill Cruz, lockdown. I even feel very confident about him as a center fielder now. Brian Reynolds and right. Left field, you got Canario as probably your best option on the team right now. If you're just looking for raw power, you got Jack Sawinski down there. They could try again. Somebody they could try again from down there, but that's probably your best opportunity to go out and get one big power bat, left fielder. Shortstop's going to be a hole now, right? And third base, to me, if you have Brian Hayes here, you're saying, okay, well, there's not going to be any power addition there. There's our starter for the next several years. Until he's gone, I don't think this team will ever see third base as a place where they can add power. And I think they have to. They just simply don't have it coming anywhere else.
Yeah, I think it comes down to like how much do the Pirates value his defense? Is it just to the point where they will not move him regardless because they value him so much defensively, and he is a Gold Glover, and he has the ability to do that again every year, even with a wonky back. But they have to start trying to find somewhere to get some power into the lineup. I agree that it almost is a roadblock to even thinking about that position because you're saying, well, we have Hayes. He's our third baseman.
Right.
Yeah. He's third. What's that?
He's the guy we signed.
Yeah.
So out of sight, out of mind goes the position.
Right.
Needs power. And I just don't know where it's coming from. And I feel like when I walk around and I sit here and I come out with my math equation, which is, Jim, I've got two positions I can throw money at or trade capital at to actually add power to this team. And it's just shortstop and left field because I've got so many second basemen. I've got to try one of them. So is that enough for me to really think this team takes a jump? I don't think so, man. Like I'm kind of thinking beyond that. I'm trying to find where's that painful person I'm getting rid of that like I had settled. Like the Pirates back in the day when they decided to trade Tony Pena from a team that couldn't hit to get a bunch of hitters and a pitcher. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where's that like shift in the equilibrium of this team that you built on a skew? That's what I'm looking for. And to me, that's got to be something lodged free, like Brian Hayes. You've got to give up on something, right?
Well, I think what makes this really interesting is if you're just solely going to say trade Hayes, insert Triolo there, then you're kind of back to square one, except the money's better, right? The money situation gets better. So, me, I've never been a huge Triolo bat guy. I think that there's always going to be a low ceiling there.
I agree.
So if it's just solely that gives me pause, just simply because, okay, great, we've saved the money, but what does that do? I don't know. I lean toward, I voted yes in the poll, and I'm comfortable with that, to the extent that I think they've done everything they can to get Hayes playing as much healthy as he can, and it's just not there. If you have a chance to move him, I would do it. I think there are plenty of teams out there, Gary, that look at his contract and could care less.
Oh yeah.
Like if you're adding possibly the best defensive third baseman in baseball for a team that has their sights set on winning in the postseason, I don't think a team hesitates there. I don't think the return will be great,
Especially if it's been a sore spot for you for like years and years and years.
Sure,
And
you're plugging him in and don't care if he hits.
right. And like Josh says Hayes' defense alone is worth the contract. That's fine. But I'm trying to build a winning baseball team. And I don't think I can afford to just have third base be a defensive spot on a team like this. I don't think they have enough power from other spots. That's my problem here.
So if all they do is trade Hayes and insert Triolo into that same spot, are you okay with that? Can you live with it?
For the rest of this year, sure. For this poll question to make it as painful as possible, yeah. I voted no because I don't think I would feel that much of a difference, quite frankly. But I think I won't feel that much of a difference, if only because I think they hit about the same, and I think the fielding is just about negligible. Will I notice it? That it's not quite as good as Brian? Probably. But I don't think I'll notice it nearly as much as a lot of us fear. And I mean, it's not like I think I'm going to get anything out of Trillo.
Yeah.
The poll question, again, I'm trying to make it hard by intentionally
Right.
forcing Trillo in there, because that was a lot of the comments people wanted to make. Like even Greg here just said Trillo can be optioned if they were to trade Hayes and acquire another bat lady. Sure. All of those plausibilities are there. Nick York could play over there. Nick Gonzalez could play over there. Peguero, Nunez, Hannigan, Brannigan, whatever. You want to get as far and deep into this as you like. That's fine. But my point is, I want to improve this baseball team quickly. So let's make this as painful as possible and see if you'd agree to trade him. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I know people had a hard time staying on task with it, because it is hard, like, because there are so many things associated with it. I will say, Gary, the one thing I'm trying to keep in mind here is almost like look at it like the Bednar situation in a way, which is, you know what? Brian Hayes is healthy and actually playing great defense. He could wake up in August, late July, in full rigor mortis with his back and right back on the IL for the rest of the year. I think if he's healthy and you can move him, you do that now before you get stuck later when he has problems again. I think you owe that to yourself to move him at that point.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, Jim. I think we both said that actually before the season. If you can get him healthy enough that it convinces someone that they've fixed it,
right,
move him. I just think, just to get it out of the Pirates system, that the position is solved. That's number one, why I want it done. Two, I think it'll loosen up a little bit of a clog that you have coming and already forming for that second base, third base slot. Part of me, Jim, is starting to think, just looking at the free agent board for next year and everything, and as much as we bitched about IKF playing shortstop, and I still don't think he's great there, they may be smart to see if there's any way he might want to stick around for a year or two. just to shore things up a little bit, because I do not trust all of these rookies having to come up and watch this team get better. I think there's got to be a big signing somewhere in there, right? Or a big trade that fills one of those roles with major league talent.
Yeah, I think too, it's like maybe we were more spoiled with the Jordy Mercers of the world than we realized. You know, guys that can just play the position and give you 9 homers and 50 RBIs and lock down on shortstop in that regard. Boy, it would be nice to find a guy just like that again. You know, IKF, we know about his defensive shortcomings. It's not a bad idea. I think he might be attracted to a team at the deadline. So
I think so too. Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing something out there because shortstop is a problem in the making. And as much as people keep saying, like, well, you could just use Triolo somewhere else, or even I've proposed using him at third. Well, meet your new shortstop in a few months, because Triolo is probably their best option as far as a glove goes there right now. Right.
Yeah.
And they're grooming Jack Brannigan for it. You know, that's where they have him playing in Altoona. But that's not something that a winning team like counts on coming up in spring next year, right?
No, not at that
I think
position.
that's where we're at. Like, if you're trying to take a jump, you got to stop looking into the prospect depth, and you got to quit suggesting guys like Brandon Drury in the chat. Like, guys, I don't want to trade Hayes to get crap to replace him. Hayes is not a not major league player. He's not even somebody that you would really consider to be not a starter. He's a guy that on a team that has offensive shortcomings, especially on the power side of things, you can't afford it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I just look at it as like if we at least if I look at it like the Pirates have a finite amount of money to spend. I don't know what that number is, but if you can remove that from the equation, I'm willing to do it, just simply because I think there's limitations based on what they do have to spend. So I'd like to clear that off the books. I think it gets really interesting if you start talking about some other players on this team, and maybe we should do that for another show with some of these other guys too, because I know Reynolds' name is getting mentioned and things of that nature. So
yeah, I mean, I don't think that it'll get to that level. I don't think there's any way that you can touch the only productive pieces of offense on this team and think you're going to move forward in any way. It needs built onto, not subtracted from. And I know that sounds opposite of what I'm saying with Hayes, but that's because he's not contributing what I'm sitting here telling you is missing. You know, like,
yeah,
I'm willing to move him because he's not contributing. If you move O'Neal Cruz or Brian Reynolds, you might as well go ahead and move Skeens. Flat out. I'm just going to say it. Because you're not going to win. They're not going to find anyone with the talent of Brian Reynolds or O'Neal Cruz in any kind of deal to replace them. They won't. You know it as well as I do. And they're not going to sign somebody like that.
I mean, I would argue if I could. I know there are people out there that are dead set on trading or trying to move Brian Reynolds. I think it's a mistake. I would not do it. I think there'll come a time when that happens, but it's not now. It's not now.
Yeah, it's
this year.
Let's see. Nick Camuso says, seems counterproductive in a way to trade Hayes and be okay with basically the same player profile, but it would give them some flexibility money-wise and improve the team in other areas. So there's an agreement mark for you, sir.
Yeah. Does it strike you as odd that there's only like, I think this is right. There's only like 11 months age difference between Triolo and Ke'Bryan Hayes.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed that, but I think Triolo is a young 27 and Hayes is an older 28 in that regard. And
It does feel that way. His family
Yeah.
would age me too.
Well, that's another part of the equation that, you know what? Family doesn't seem too happy with the Pirates. Hayes is hard to get a read on, just in general. He
I
is.
totally agree. See, Eric says, I don't think you'd notice any on-field difference, honestly. Biggest issue I suspect would be getting someone to take Key's contract without sending someone of value along with them. Let's talk about that a bit, Jim. I don't think they'll struggle at all to do that. I don't think that the money is going to hurt anybody that would be interested in a player like that because they can absorb that lack of offense, right? He just has all the feeling of a guy that somebody like the Dodgers likes to just keep on their bench, just have around, and he'll come up with some gigantic hit in the NLCS and like it'll make it look like it was a wise decision, like a replacement for Kike Hernandez, and he can just play third base and maybe they turn him into a third base, shortstop, second baseman or something like they always tend to. Teach him first base too for when Freddie's off for a day or two. Turn that into something like a $7 million contract for the Dodgers. They'd laugh at that. The Yankees always have injury concerns and whatnot, right? So
I think the Yankees make a ton of sense. I know they can play Jazz there, and that's kind of what their plan is. I think they would prefer if they could move Jazz maybe to second, let Hayes take third. We saw what their defense did to them in the World Series last year. I think that's still fresh in their minds. If they can lock down that for $7 million, the Yankees spit on $7 million. They do.
And I would think like you can probably get out of this without thinking you have to include anything else. I don't know what you get back. I think you'd probably get a lottery ticket. A lot of people, I think, want to immediately go to this like he's so terrible. Nobody would even. I don't even think that's what I'm trying to say. I know it's coming across that way because why else would I be actively asking to move a player the Pirates have control of for a long time? Something we've begged them to do for years and years and years, right? Well, I'm doing it because
I'm saying he'd start for the Yankees.
I think you would too. I think you would too, at least for a couple years. They just don't. The difference is they don't care what happens to him in 2028. They don't care if this contract is garbage in 2027. They're worried about right now, and if it works out, cool,
dude. That's a great point. I think Pirate fans think like Pirates fans.
Oh yeah,
and you know what I mean. Like that's key, which is they really don't care about 28 and 29. They don't. Like we look at it as the entirety of the contract and whatever. Do you know how much dead money those kinds of teams have sitting on the books? They don't give a shit, Gary. They don't. They haven't. And we look at it through the lens of the Bob Nutting school of contracts, and you can't apply that to teams that are in a different stratosphere financially.
Let's see. We got a suggestion here from DJR. What about trading him for someone else's bad fit $7 million player who may have some power? Hey, if you can find a match like that, cool. I'd have to do some looking around before I could suggest something like that. I don't know anybody that necessarily comes to mind like that. I think you'd probably be more apt to get yourself I don't want to say failed prospect, but a prospect that somebody just doesn't have the time or inclination to put the effort in with because they're okay there, but he's got a few major league hits here and there. Somebody that's maybe on year 2 or 3 of getting MLB chances, but it's just not that big of a deal, and there's never going to be a great fit for him there. That's the type of guy maybe you could get.
I would say if I would rather not take if I'm going to get Hayes off the books, I don't know that I want to take the same kind of salary back in another move that might put you right back in the same situation. I just kind of would like to get out from under it and move on. I'll take a flyer. I'll take a single A guy that maybe has some real potential. That's where I would be at it with it. Callie Bucko's fan says Pirates luck means that no matter where Hayes ends up, he hits like Ted Williams when he gets there. You know what? If he does, great.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
I would actually be happy for someone that I do think has tried to tough this out and play, and he's given us, the defense that he's given the Pirates. I don't hold any ill will toward Brian Hayes, and I would hope he'd go somewhere and do well. I wouldn't be glad that his brother and his dad would get to enjoy it, but I could enjoy it for Brian Hayes.
yeah. I don't hate Brian Hayes. I appreciate his contributions here. If he ends up finishing his contract out, it's not like I'm going to spend the next 4 years hating the guy. I'm going to hope that he does better than what I've seen. But I just feel like this Pirates team in particular, because of the way they spend money, they have to have their toy taken away to understand that they need to quit playing with it. And I just feel like that's the only way that they get out from believing that this is good enough for a winning club is that. And the shortstop situation is almost scaring me into this because I don't see it.
Yeah.
I just don't see a shortstop right now. And I don't think that they can buy one that's good enough. And I don't think they can certainly buy one that's going to come with power. And I think third baseman, you can find somebody that can hit for a little more pop than Brian Hayes. Even if I have to deal with a few more infield singles and a couple less double plays turned, I think my pitching's good enough to overcome that. You know what I mean?
No, I get it. And I think what you said too is like the Pirates sometimes get things stuck in their head. He's the third baseman. Bednar's the closer. Brian Reynolds only bats number 2 in the lineup, right? Things like that where they get very they don't even see options around it. And they're just not in a position to ever really think like that. They really aren't. For a team that says they try to find every which way to win and, analyzes all the angles and all the metrics, they get stuck in their way of thinking with certain things.
Yeah, it does feel that way, man. I'll tell you what, let's take another break and when we come back, let's talk about something a little bit more uplifting, shall we? How about a little bit of young pitching conversation?
Oh, boy. Thank God.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum. Jim, did you get
Jerry,
it all out
what-
of your system? Do you feel like we've filled the coffers with Hayes talk?
Well, it's funny you say that. I have one more comment about this whole thing and it's kind of funny about how this works out. But do you remember when Hayes signed this contract and people just screaming about his agent needs fired and what a ridiculous decision this was? And you know what? Brian Hayes probably wakes up every morning and thanks God that he signed that when he did, because you just never know what is coming down the pipeline, or however you want to say that term. But I just remember that being a thing. Like, how stupid was he, and how stupid were the family and the agent? Well, you know what? They really weren't. You never know.
Well, listen, I know this stuff comes across as you're either a hater or a fanboy or whatever. I'm not trying to be one or the other. I like Brian Hayes. I was ecstatic when they signed him. I thought it was a great signing. I thought it was a sign of some things changing here.
Stake in the ground is what Bob Nutting said when they signed him.
I called it a foot in the ground. I mean, like it was an important step, and then I think defensively, boy, he's everything you ever hoped anyone would be. He's the best defensive third baseman I've ever watched play for any extended period of time. I'll say that. I've seen probably close in my lifetime, but in Pittsburgh, that's
In Pittsburgh,
up there,
for sure.
You
in
know?
Pittsburgh, absolutely.
So I'll always respect him and I'll always love that. And I'd love to think that he could get back to just being a 250 hitter. But I have a real hard time thinking that this team, the way it's constructed. Let me try and take one more crack at how I feel about it.
All right.
If you had a team where everybody on the team could hit like 10 to 15 home runs, you can survive without having a bunch of big boppers. Because everybody can contribute a little bit here and there to that needed power. When you have one guy who's going to hit 4 or maybe 5, if you're lucky, and you're going to actually kind of go like, wow, he really 4 or 5, like Brian Hayes is right now. Bro, I don't know how that's good enough for this team. I don't think they're constructed in a way to absorb that, is my point. I just think they have to have more than that. And if it means like Nick Gonzalez plays third, it's not as clean, but he's popping 15, 20 home runs, and then I can have someone else play at second base and pop 15 or 20 home runs. Do you see how I feel like it cascades around the diamond a little bit better than I'm thinking we have to go out and sign a 40 home run third baseman that there's like 4 of?
There's a trade-off, and you have to be willing to trade things off at times to get your strengths back to where get you some strengths that you don't have, and Hayes is not helping in that regard at all.
Totally. All right, so young pitching. First, Jim, everyone keeps wanting Bubba up here, and listen, I'm excited to see Bubba, but I don't think this is like so many of the other when are we calling up so-and-so arguments or conversations we've had before. Because this time, Jim, I have to legitimately go, for whom? Because I want to see Mike Burrows, and I want to see Braxton Ashcraft, and I want to see a lot of these other kids that I've been waiting for. I want to see Johan Oviedo, who's just getting ready to start throwing live batting practice. You know what I mean? So I don't think this is the same situation we've had before. I don't want to sit here and tell you like, well, he has to wait for them to trade Andrew Heaney to get a shot. I mean, odds tell you an injury will happen before then, right? I mean, it always seems to. But I also don't feel like this imperative, like, oh, got to get him up here right now. It's not like he's been completely flawless, right? He's more than the highlight packages that get put out.
Yeah, look, the worst thing that ever happened to Bubba Chandler was Paul Skeens. Bubba's really good, but he gets a little in trouble with strike zone at times. He's got some fine tuning to do. Does that mean he doesn't deserve to be called up? No, I think he does. Would I put him in the rotation? Yes, I would. But the one thing the Pirates do have going for them right now is the starting rotation out of everything else that has, gone sideways. So a lot of this comes from people just view it as the Pirates are screwing Bubba Chandler.
Okay, but you just said yourself, should we put him in the rotation? You go, yes, I would. Okay. For who? I mean, you answer the question then, because that's where I'm at, man. Like,
I would probably go 6-man.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and spill a dirty little secret then.
Go ahead.
I don't think Paul Skeens wants that. I don't think he wants to pitch any less than he possibly can. And I think he's made that clear.
I don't think Paul Skeens ever wants to not pitch on his regularly scheduled days.
Yeah. So I don't think they're going to go to a 6-man. Because I think if they were going to, they would have already. A couple times. So I just don't see that. Except for maybe like a rare like stretch of like 14 games in a row or something. I could see you sneaking one in or whatever. But
yeah, I'd have to look at the schedule as we go down in the next month or two and see what that would look like too.
But I don't think they're going to do it. I just don't think they're going to.
No, I agree with you. It's just something that I would put into the equation just simply because I think it allows them some flexibility and buys them a little time up until the trade deadline too.
I guess, but why am I buying time again? Because again, the rotation is not even close to a problem. Why am I forcing this situation upon myself? Why am I making special accommodations to get? You don't deserve shit in this game, okay? You don't deserve.
Clearly, we're Pirates fans.
But he doesn't deserve to come up here. You earn coming up here, right? And if your team is in a better spot when you happen to be ready, well, shit, you don't get to come up. You know what I mean? Like they don't need you right now. That's really the truth. And if you brought him up here right now, just what he's been doing in the minors, I'm telling you, you're going to get 4 innings. That 5 innings that he's getting now is going to turn into 4. It's just the walks are going to go up. I'm telling you, it's going to be a 4-inning outing, 5 at best. I've seen that with Majinski, and we ran him out of town. I've seen better than that with Burrows, and we want to run him out of town. Like, I think I want to see Ashcraft a little bit. My next opportunity really is like trade Heaney. That's the next place for me. If you really want to make room bad enough for him, find an early taker for Heaney. Get it done. Now, something tells me they don't think he's better than Andrew Heaney, and guess what? I don't either. I want to see him, but I don't think he'll be immediately better than Andrew Heaney.
Well, and that's an interesting thing to look at too. Is because we're
even right now. Look, we just got a comment. Right now, he's at 49 pitches in 2 innings. I'm not just blowing smoke.
No, listen. I think Chandler will have some growing pains, which isn't uncommon. We just saw Paul Skeens not have any of those. If you could somehow find a team that is willing to get in front of some of the trade deadline stuff, and you could move a Heaney doing that before the trade deadline, that would certainly help clarify things as far as how you could proceed with Bubba.
I guess the other thing you could do, but I don't think you can do it at the same time that you're doing what you're doing with Burrows and Ashcraft, is you can maybe bring Bubba up and use him kind of as a backer for Heaney, who tends to have shorter outings than the other guys, and let him do what Ashcraft's doing right now, which is come in and give you like 2-3 innings, like in the middle of the game. That might be one way to like slowly onboard him, but I don't think that's how you typically see teams onboard their top pitching prospects. They tend to want to make, especially in smaller markets like this, you want to make a little bit of a big deal about the arrival of the next big thing, right? So you want that to be the formal start, I think, is what you're looking for. And you also don't like to bring them up when you're pretty sure you're going to have to send them back down. And I wonder, truthfully, if there's just a few too many red flags right now to be forcing the issue with something that you don't have to force the issue with.
You're not wrong. Some people will never buy that. with
Well,
him.
some people are stupid. What about you?
Depends on what day you catch me on, Gary. No, when I say I think he deserves to be called up, I think his body of work has been good enough that he does deserve that call up. But I don't think that necessarily means that he just comes in, arrives, and is a mainstay in the rotation. I do think there are going to be some ups and downs with him. I really do.
I mean, the confusing part about it is he and Thomas Harrington were in the exact same situation, like going into spring. And they ended up adding Thomas Harrington to the 40 man, which kind of surprised me that they chose him over Bubba in the first place for that. Although I was really high on Harrington, who struggled this year. I guess I wondered why they did that then, because all the people that are up here getting shots now are people that I thought should have been in front of Harrington back then. You know, like Ashcraft and Burrows and whatnot. And now I'm sitting here going like, well, nobody even talks about Harrington anymore because he's been struggling, like I said. Now it's Barco and Chandler, and that's it. I could argue Barco is probably more ready for this level than I think Chandler is. Does that make sense? Like if I was going to pick one of them right now, I'd pick Barco,
Yeah.
I think.
I'm thinking. I'll have to think about that one because I think Chandler could come up and give you some dominant starts here and there. I just think that the highs and lows will be there. I think maybe Barco could be somebody that would be maybe more consistent out the gate, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, yeah. I mean, if that's your impression of him, sure.
No, that's just because you just I hadn't thought about that before, but I do. I think that would probably be how I would look at it.
Yeah, I just think like we have these two highly ranked guys, and it's all about when's Bubba coming up, manipulation, wham, super two.
Well,
I honest to God don't see it this year. I honest to God don't see the correlation here. I don't see even the panic about him not coming up. I see the really good starts here and there. I see what I see too. I see guys swinging at crap that they absolutely won't swing at here. Just won't. It's so reminiscent of Tyler Glasnow to me. That's the best way I can put it. All the stuff in the world, but there's a whole lot of learning what guys will and won't fish for up here. You know what I mean? That bouncing that curveball a foot in front of the home plate doesn't get a swing in the major leagues, but it sure as hell did in AAA. You know, that's the kind of thing I worry about. I think eventually he will be good. I'd love to get the ball rolling at some point. I just feel no pressure to do it for any arbitrary reason at this point. You know, and if I had to pick one of my young pitchers that hasn't already been used, again, I think I'd go Hunter Barco at this point. I think he's been cleaner. I think he's been dominant. And I mean like Jared Jones dominant. The kind that like leaves you no excuse to not call. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at with him. I have not been there with Bubba. As excited as I am about Bubba, as big as I think the talent is.
Right. It's just funny as we sit here and I'm just like, man, you know, we can talk about the pitching all day with this organization and the options. We're talking about Oviedo, even Burrows got completely forgotten about. Harrington's now been forgotten about. We've got Barco, you got Chandler, Dari Moreta, you know, like even guys like that are still possibly. And it's just so funny that on the pitching side, this is how we talk. And on the offense side, we have to actually search for ideas and names. It's just such a stark contrast, Gary.
And 2 years ago, I think, let's see, wait, did Barco, Barco and Hunter and Chandler are not too far apart on that, honest to God. They're not. Barco, he'll maybe throw 30 less than Chandler this year. You know, neither of them are going to go real deep into the season if they let them go more than 5. Not that Bubba would allow himself to with pitch count. But yeah, Jim, I don't know, man. 2 years ago, I think we were saying the opposite. I think we thought the offense was coming together and the pitching wasn't. I think we did a whole show about where's the pitching. Well, here's the pitching. And you kind of hope that something happens like that with the offense where it all starts just coming out of the shadows and you didn't even notice it. And now all of a sudden, holy shit. Like and it could start to happen in a way because there's guys we don't talk about and we just glaze over, Jim, that are going to start flooding up to the AAA as the season goes on, like Termar and Mitch Jebb and Brannigan, and that sort of class is going to start working its way up there. I have no doubt Nick York's going to get a little bit better and get a crack. He's still only 23,
right.
So
no, I'm still hopeful with Nick York. Termar, I think there's been some positive steps there. He's just still so yong,
I think he's doing a lot better this year.
Yeah,
the numbers are the numbers. But the OPS is where it needs to be. The walks are where they need to be. And he's got the power going, and he's still hitting for contact. So I think he's moving along. He still hasn't faced a pitcher younger than him yet.
Yeah,
can you believe that?
Yeah, no, he's still a baby. So like, I'm okay with it. Like, obviously, what I have liked to him to be like, to the point where they're just like he's forcing his way to be, in the discussion to be called up. But I think it was always going to be a process with Termar.
Yeah, I agree. But that's what happens. And I think it's actually kind of educating them on Griffin because a lot of people are wanting him to be sent up to Greensboro already. And I was looking into him. In fact, I made a couple phone calls to talk to some people because I just want to kind of understand beyond just what I see and what I look at in stats and everything. From everything I hear, there's still a little bit of concern with like hitting the breaking pitches and recognizing the breaking pitches just a little bit. Stuff they want to get ironed out before they send them to the next level, which makes a lot of sense. And they did make a lot of changes to the development system last offseason that a lot of people didn't talk about. And I know for a fact this new incoming group, they have an underlying belief that Termar was pushed a little bit and maybe shouldn't have been. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I could see that educating them a little bit, at least as far as how they handle Griffin.
Well, and you talked about changes. Connor Griffin went through some changes with his swing and how some pretty big changes. So like rarely does that come with just success. Like there's going to be some times where that isn't as linear as you would hope it would be. So like, again, he's super impressive, but they did a lot of things to change him in his swing. So that takes time to get ironed out.
And Wyatt Sanford looks great too. He got called up from the FCL to Bradenton. Yeah. Oh my God. He looks great so far.
Yes.
Little spark plug type player. Looks like he got crazy pop for his size too. It's sick what he was doing the other day. I really like the kid. Like maybe the thing is Ben Cherington might not ever get to experience what happened from any of those changes he made to the development team last year, but it may have actually helped fix some stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, well, he might, you're saying he might not be around for any of it.
Yeah,
it's funny. Ben Sherrington's like the anti-politician in the sense of he's thinking long term, and most politicians only worry about the 2 years, 4 years in front of them. Whether that works or not, I don't know. But
well, hey, good stuff, Jim. I really enjoyed it, and we waited out the rain delay. The tarp is coming off the field down there at PNC Park. Thanks again for cooperating with us, Weather. I really appreciate that. I mean, we will never ever move the show for baseball game purposes for this reason, because the weather just takes care of it.
it worked out perfectly. And I do want to say big thank you to Michael for filling in for me last week. I had to get a vacation in between all the baseball games of Ben and hockey and everything he's got going on. So good community in Pirates Land, and so thank you to Michael.
And Ben is growing like a weed. I saw a picture of him on Facebook. Holy shit.
Man, he's skinny, Gary. You didn't get that from me. Tall
Well,
and skinny.
I've seen some pictures of you from 10 years ago too, bro. So like let's not get carried away.
Age is tough on all of us, dude.
It sure as hell is, brother. All right, let's toss it off to our buddy Ben.
Thanks, guys.
Let's go, Bucks!
Yeah, buddy.